Hello and welcome to Clarinet Ninja. Today I'm doing something super fun. I've got 6 mouthpieces here. They are all student mouthpieces, and we're going to explore the idea of what matters in a student mouthpiece and what's the best way to get the best result. Let's check it out. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play all these mouthpieces on an instrument that's similar to what you might have when you are starting out on the clarinet. I'm going to play them all on a Rico 2.5. Oftentimes people start off on a 2, but a 2.5 is what I got here, so it's what I'm going to use. So just to say, this is not a professional clarinet, and these are not professional clarinet mouthpieces. But I want to go over why it is that you might or might not want to play on the mouthpiece that came with your instrument. What are the benefits and what are the costs? Let's do it. I'm going to take this clarinet off the wall. Ooh. This clarinet represents what I would consider your sort of standard, how do you say? Like, this instrument is okay to start on. I'm not going to mention the brand specifically. It's an instrument that is okay. This is not an instrument that comes from a manufacturer that also produces professional instruments. Most of these instruments are manufactured in China or Taiwan, and they're mostly the same with just a different name stamped on them. So this is average clarinet that you would get from your school, or that if you order a clarinet that's not a Yamaha, a Buffet, even the Jupiters are okay, but one of those, which I would suggest that you get. But if you don't, you can still learn how to play the clarinet. I just want to highlight that that's what instrument this is. I'm not playing on anything fancy. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go through this. I'm going to play the mouthpiece that came with this instrument. One of the things I dislike when I see videos like this is people play on a professional instrument and they play things a professional might play to assess the mouthpiece. And there is value in that, but I want to go a step further. I want to imagine the value of what this might be like for your first 2 or 3 years of playing. Because I think that if you get a student clarinet, it should, if you are a real hard practicer, you're really committed to it, that setup is not going to last more than 3 years before it starts to hold you back, regardless of what it is. So let's just check out things you might play in your first couple of years, 3 years of playing. I would say by the time you get that far into playing, you might be playing a higher number reed. But let's just pretend it's your first day on the clarinet, and here's what you have. You've got your clarinet, you've got your mouthpiece, you've got your ligature. This is what came in the box with this clarinet. Let's see how it sounds. I'm going to play some scales, and I'm going to play some tunes you might play if you are a beginning clarinetist. All right, so that sounded pretty good to me. Here's where it goes wrong a little bit. It's fine here in this register. Cool, totally functional. Where it gets a little weird is in the upper register. It starts to get a little spread out, but again, when you're beginning on the clarinet, your sound is going to be, generally speaking, pretty spread out. So, is that fixable? Yeah. Here's the other thing you should think about when you're dealing with a student mouthpiece is, at what point will this start to hold you back? And at what point is this not going to give you information that you need? Which is, if you're going to play with your best sound, is this going to allow you to do it without doing things that are crazy? In this mouthpiece, you can play it if you're just starting out. It's not going to kill you, but it's also not going to really help you. So let's put this one down. I'm going to use, and this is something that you should know, mouthpieces oftentimes, if not most of the time, don't come with a ligature. So if you buy a brand new mouthpiece and you've never bought a mouthpiece before, don't be surprised if it doesn't come with a ligature, because most of them don't. The good news is you can just use the same one that came with the clarinet that you have. They're all interchangeable, by and large. I mean, there's some instances in which one might be too big or too small, but those are unlikely. The next mouthpiece I have in my hands is a Buffet. This came with a Buffet clarinet I bought years ago. And let's see how that, they call them stock mouthpieces. Let's see how it sounds. So this mouthpiece is a little bit bigger around. This ligature is a little bit small for this mouthpiece. Still usable, but it's the kind of thing that you can run into. Like I was talking about earlier, it's not an extreme version of it, but it can happen. All right, let's hear this one. Again, this mouthpiece is pretty good in the lower register. No real genuine problem with it. This does have a coarse, sort of bright, edgy sound to it. And again, when you're first starting out, probably not a big deal because people start out playing pretty bright and edgy and there's nothing you can do about that. But then when it comes to the point that you want to refine your sound, can this do it? No, this won't make it for you on that. But if you have a Buffet clarinet for your first instrument, and this comes with it, you can play it for a little bit. Wouldn't be the end of the world. But here's, again, it gets weird when you get up higher, which isn't something that you're going to do for the first, if you're in school band, you're not going to do it for probably a year at least. And if you're taking private lessons, it'll come sooner. But here's where the problem comes, right? It already starts to get a little bit on that G. But the sound of that C, it hurts my ears. That would be mitigated probably by playing on a harder reed, which by the time you get up to playing high C, you probably will be doing. But again, let's see what we have with the other mouthpieces coming up. This mouthpiece is one I bought on Amazon for $10. I bought it specifically because the picture had the person holding the clarinet backwards. It could have been that the image was reversed, but it did look like the person was playing the clarinet with their hands in the wrong place. And I thought, well, if they've got that kind of quality control, I gotta try that mouthpiece for $10. What a bargain. Okay. This did not come with a ligature. No problem. This is called a professional clarinet mouthpiece. For $10, let's see what you get. For $10, not bad. It is a marginal improvement over the mouthpieces that came with the instrument. But put marginal in all caps. It's not that much better. But for $10, it's not that much of a risk. But let's check it out one more time in that upper register. Well, let's start on C and play up. Let's see how that G feels. That is more contained than the other options that we've heard so far. The pitch up there seems a little bit better. The tone quality is more focused. Those are good things. This is an upgrade from what we're going to accept as the standard stock mouthpieces. Good news. $10, well spent. The next mouthpiece I'm going to play also costs $10. There's some things I love about this mouthpiece. Number one, well, actually the main thing I love about this mouthpiece is the font and the logo of it. It's called a Glory. And can't beat this in terms of appearance. That is a great logo. I wish all manufacturers of all things put that kind of attention on aesthetics. All right, but let's see how it plays. I haven't tried it. I've just looked at it. This one is the only one of the bunch that did come with a ligature and a mouthpiece cap. It also came with a reed. I didn't try that because it doesn't matter. So here we go. Here is our Glory mouthpiece. I feel like that is worth so much more than the professional mouthpiece that I just played. Not only does it look better, it sounds better. And this actually is giving the feedback when I play the way I play clarinet, which I would like to say has a focused sound and plays well in tune. This one gives me feedback that makes sense. And that's the thing that we really got to think about. Like, as we improve, does this establish good habits? To say, if I do this on the clarinet, if I play it this way, does it give me the response and the results that align with that type of clarinet playing? That's really where these mouthpieces can make a huge difference. This has what I would characterize as a darker sound than the other ones. Like, I wouldn't play this professionally, but it's a good mouthpiece. And when you factor in it costs $10, yeah, that's pretty good. So there we go. So far, this is, I would say, significantly better than the other ones. Now I'm going to switch to a mouthpiece that I've really never played one of these. I acquired this from a friend who's very kind to just give it to me. This is a Yamaha 4C, but it's the fancier 4C that I believe is made out of hard rubber. The 4C itself is made out of plastic. I think this one's a little bit more expensive, but a 4C that's made out of plastic, I think will run you about $35. I'll put some links for all these mouthpieces in the description. And let me tell you, these are affiliate links. And if you buy a mouthpiece through one of these links on Amazon, I get a little bit of money. It's not a lot of money. And it doesn't cost you any more money. So if you want to get one of these mouthpieces, hey, buy it from the description. That would mean a lot to me. Enough of that. But no, it would actually make a difference to me. So here's something that you should know. The corks on these mouthpieces all come pretty thick. One of the things I've read about one of the mouthpieces we're going to hear in a second is that people have gotten it and they think that when you have to press that hard to get it in the socket of the barrel, that it's probably not the right mouthpiece for their clarinet. And I can kind of see that logic. It doesn't happen to be true. The reason that these corks are oftentimes as big as they are is they will compress and then it'll fit on your mouthpiece very, very nicely. The thing that you should have with any of these mouthpieces, just to be sure, is cork grease. You can buy cork grease that is made to be cork grease for exactly that purpose. If you have a tube of chapstick, that'll work too. But also, you might want to have some sandpaper. And you would just take that sandpaper, if your cork is too thick, only if your cork is too thick, and rub it around. Just take a little bit off the cork, take it evenly off, and then see if it fits a little bit better with some cork grease. You can work it down like that. Don't press too hard, and don't use super coarse sandpaper, because you don't want to take too much off, because then it'll be loose, and it won't fit properly, and then it's not going to work right, which is why all these corks err on the side of being too thick. But regardless, don't believe that you've gotten a mouthpiece that's not right. It's a common choice when these mouthpieces are made. So here we go, the Yamaha 4C. And I've never played a lot of these mouthpieces. I haven't played the professional mouthpiece or the Glory. That was a first experience. This is also a first experience with the 4C. I've heard really good things about these mouthpieces, and I'm excited to play it. So let's see what we got. I'm going to play that scale one more time. Okay, so here is what I think about this. This mouthpiece is a little bit bright for me, but what mouthpiece isn't going to be bright for me when I'm playing on a number 2.5 reed? All of them. So I'm not going to really factor that in to be too important in terms of what this means to you if you are getting going and you're looking for a student mouthpiece. What I will tell you is that this mouthpiece is very even. And what that means is when I go from the low register to go to the high register, it feels very much even. The sound is a little bit spread out for me in comparison to like to the Glory mouthpiece, but this is more even than the Glory mouthpiece, and this also does give the feedback of good clarinet playing, turns into a good result here. The other mouthpieces, again, I just want to say, like once you get past the very beginning stages of playing lightly row, what you would have to do to make the mouthpiece sound good is not going to really be the things that are going to create good habits in the long run. And that is a concern if you play the clarinet for more than a few months, which hopefully you all do. Okay, so the next mouthpiece I'm going to play on. So I think this is about $35 in the plastic version. I don't know what it is in the, this is going to be hard to take off. Watch me struggle. Ah. I didn't put any cork grease on this. You can hear it, right? Okay, so that is a modeling bad mouthpiece choices. I should have put some cork grease on this. So this actually is a Yamaha 4CM. I'll put links to that in the description too. This is the, I believe, the fancier version. Good. So now I'm going to play on a mouthpiece that actually I do know. I don't know this particular one. I've never played on this particular one, but I recommend this mouthpiece all the time. It's made by a gentleman in San Francisco named Clark Phobes, who is really a wonderful, like really one of the best mouthpiece makers in the world. And he blessed the clarinet world, and the saxophone world for that matter, with this mouthpiece called the Debut. And it is, he spends a little time on it, I think, you know, making sure it's right before it leaves his house or his shop. I don't know exactly if he has a shop or if he works out of his house. Doesn't matter. This is modeled after one of his professional mouthpieces, just not quite as carefully touched up and, you know, worked on in the end. But that means for us, we get a mouthpiece that is modeled after a professional mouthpiece by one of the world's finest mouthpiece makers for $35 to $39. I'll leave a link in the description. These mouthpieces always, in my experience, come with a cork that's a little bit too thick, maybe a lot too thick. There's cork grease on this one. And that causes a bit of a problem. But again, that's a problem that is well worth getting some sandpaper out, getting your cork grease out, and fixing it. Because the cork will compress and it will fit on your instrument beautifully in the long run. It'll just take a few times putting it on. And by a few times, I mean 10 to 20. You know, and then it'll all be good. Just a little bit of work with the sandpaper would turn that into like 0 times. It would be totally fine from the beginning. But let me just reiterate, you don't want your mouthpiece to be too loose. You don't want it to be falling off. Like you should, you know, don't ever do it, but you should be able to hold it by the mouthpiece and have nothing fall apart. Don't ever do that. Don't do it. But that's, you know, you don't want it loose because then it won't work right. And that's not something we need. All right, so we're going to try this mouthpiece out. I already know how it's going to go. But I want you to know how it's going to go. School's out. Okay, so hopefully you heard what I heard, which is a mouthpiece that responds very evenly, stays focused. It responds to good clarinet technique in a way that gives you the results that you want. And now, let me just reiterate all of the information that's important about this. It sounds good right now. Just if you get going, this is going to sound better probably than any of these other choices. The 4C is going to sound pretty good. The Glory is going to sound pretty good. But this is going to sound better. And it's going to put you in a position where all the habits that you're developing are going to carry through the rest of your clarinet playing career if and when you switch to a nicer clarinet, more expensive clarinet, a more expensive mouthpiece. This is going to give you everything you need to have good habits and have further success down the road. It really does set people up for good habits and much success later on. Now, I have played, not on this particular one, but on other mouthpieces, other Debut mouthpieces, if I've got to play outside. You know, and I don't want to play my favorite mouthpiece outside where the sun's going to warp it, it's going to cause problems. I've played on this professionally. with famous people, actually. And it worked out super well. It was great. I put a number 4 reed on it, and this is a 2.5. So it sounded like quite a bit different. But this actually is borderline able to be played in a professional situation. What is different about these mouthpieces than the professional ones is the material it's made out of and the amount of time that gets spent finishing it so that it's just right. So there's a wider margin of how these mouthpieces are going to play, but they're all going to be in this general ballpark. This is not one I picked out specifically. I went on Amazon. I'll put the link down there. You can use the same link I did to get this mouthpiece. And I think it was $35, $39, something like that. But it is far superior for all these reasons. It sounds better now, and it's going to give you good habits later. Let's just listen to it one more time. What more are you going to get for $35? I mean, that's going to really, really give you everything that you need. So, depending on what you've heard here, you use your ears to decide what you think. I'm telling you what I think. This is the one. This is the one that you should go for. If you get a Yamaha 4C because you have a Yamaha clarinet, use this one. Don't spend $35. Use this. It's good. And if you like the sound of this one when I played it and you feel like this is the way to go, I would suggest this. Buy this. If you have a buffet mouthpiece in your case, you can use it for a little while. I wouldn't suggest it in the long run. The mouthpiece that came stock with the instrument, this one, it lives up there, but it's here in my hand now. You probably should switch this one out if you're taking this seriously. And then this professional mouthpiece that you play with your hands backwards. For $10, if you want to spend $10, get this one. If you already have the 4C, use it. If you like how it sounds, buy it. But for me, this is the one. Use the Clark Phobes debut mouthpiece. For $35, it's going to put you on the right path. My suggestion always is, if you're renting the instrument or it's your school instrument, buy this mouthpiece. Use it. When you have to return your instrument, keep this mouthpiece. Put the other one back in. The next clarinet you rent, or for the next school year, whatever it is, bring this mouthpiece back. Play it. And then you just give that mouthpiece back. So keep a hold of it. That way you're not giving a high-quality student mouthpiece to the rental company or to your school. Although I'm sure they're very nice people. A gift like that is not warranted. So there's the take. Like and subscribe if you want more stuff like this. And thanks for stopping in. And enjoy whatever student mouthpiece is right for you.